Think about the last sport you played, or watched, or shouted at a screen about. Now look at what you are actually doing. Throwing a spear, shooting an arrow, hitting another person in the face with your fists until one of you stopped. Almost every sport you know began as training to kill somebody. Start with the Olympics, because that is where it is most obvious once you see it. The ancient games at Olympia began around 776 BC, and the events were not chosen for entertainment. The javelin is a spear. The discus is a weighted throw. Wrestling, boxing, and pancration are unarmed combat, and pancration in particular had almost no rules at all. Then there was the hoplitodromos. That was a foot race where competitors ran in a bronze helmet and greaves carrying a heavy war shield. Not a metaphor for soldiering, literally sprinting in armour, because that is the thing a soldier has to do when a battle line breaks. Even the marathon is a war story. The distance comes from a legend about a messenger running from a battlefield, and it was invented as an event for the modern games in 1896. So why does a religious festival look exactly like a military exercise? Because for most of history there was no meaningful difference between being fit and being useful in a fight. Jump forward 2,000 years and it gets even blunter. In 1363, King Edward III of England issued an order that tells you everything. Every able-bodied man was required to practice archery on Sundays and holidays, and other games were banned outright to stop them getting in the way. Football was on that list. Read that again. Football was made illegal because it was distracting men from weapons training. Medieval tournaments were the same thing dressed up as a spectacle. Jousting and the melee were cavalry rehearsals, and they were dangerous enough that popes repeatedly tried to ban them. Knights died at them regularly. That was not considered a failure of the format. Fencing comes from dueling. Shooting is shooting. Biathlon is a military ski patrol with a scorecard. Archery is archery. Go through an Olympic program today and you are reading a fairly complete list of ways people used to kill each other. But here is where it turns, and this is the part most people never get told. Sport did not simply come out of war. At some point it started replacing it. The sociologist Norbert Elias spent decades on this, working with Eric Dunning on the history of sport in England. Their argument was that as societies became more tightly governed and everyday violence became less acceptable, people did not stop wanting the feeling that violence gave them. They needed somewhere to put it, so the rules arrived. Written codes, referees, boundaries, penalties, fixed durations. Things that would have made no sense at all to a man practicing with a longbow because the French might land next spring. Elias called this process sportization. Combat became contest. The danger stayed, but it was fenced in, measured, and given a final score. And in 1945, George Orwell put the same idea far more bluntly. He described serious sport as war minus the shooting. Which brings us back to you, because if all of that were ancient history, you would not feel anything watching a match. But you do. You feel it when the crowd noise rises before anything has actually happened. You feel it in the flags and the songs and the way an entire city can share a mood for 90 minutes. You feel it when a stranger in the wrong shirt walks past and something small and old flickers in you. That is not a modern invention. That is the original thing, still running underneath. Every ritual we built to hold it in place is only a few hundred years old. The impulse it is holding is far, far older. So when someone tells you sport does not matter, they have it exactly backwards. Sport is one of the most important things our species ever built, not because of what it is, because of what it stopped being. Think about the last sport you played, or watched, or shouted at a screen about. You were throwing a spear, you were shooting an arrow, you were hitting another person in the face, and then, somewhere along the line, everybody agreed to keep score instead.